Fancy meeting you people here at this time of night on a cloudy, partly cloudy, with some showers coming in from Alfred night in Old City Town. Welcome to our live update again. We are here with you for this journey for Alfred, and hopefully you are getting me loud and clear. And we are having a great day for Hump Day, and we are all ready to go. So let's dive into the outlook. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get around here and get things done. So that's why I'm like sounding like what the hell I'm doing. Oh, see, look there it is again. Oh, it's so frustrating. Thank you. All right, let's go. We've got heaps to get through, and I'm not going to be like tonight because I know I say that every night, but tonight we're going to do. So let's go. Latest Alfred update from the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre, only taken not long ago. Currently at about 181 nautical miles east of Brisbane, heading that way at about 11 knots. That west-northwest kick that we've been talking about is happening, so that's good on that for picking up. Can anybody hear me? Everybody's good? Sounds all good. Like, that's awesome. Thank you for that, Rachel. I'm not sure what is going on. Anyway, let's go. And the wave height is 30 feet, which is massive. The LLC, or the heart of the cyclone, is still exposed, but it is showing a moistening core. Now, I've never heard that term before. I love it, a moistening core. It sounds like me when I think about cyclones and storms. And convective banding right across the southwest, south, and the southeast, which is excellent. Its polar outflow has actually decreased a little bit today, which is why it has got a bit of a ragged look, but it's getting back to normal, excellent outflow tomorrow, apparently. The high wind shear is actually decreasing quite a lot. You remember the other day it was 50 to 60 knots, only down to 25, 30 knots down. That's expected to decrease further, which is what is flagging the potential for intensification in the next 48 hours or 36 hours as it approaches the coast. So that's what everybody's watching, or 24 hours, or how long it's going to be. There's still a bit of dry air to the north, as we know, and we'll see that very soon when we look at the satellite picture, but it is starting to moisten out and wetten out, which is good. It is actually going to drift into an area of actually better sea surface temperatures as well, which means there's a bit more potential for some energy for Alfred to strip off the top 10 metres or so of layer of sea and fire up, and away it goes. They're still going for they're going to slow it down overnight tonight, and they still expect a landfall sometime Thursday night or Friday morning. So TAU is time after update. If you ever, go back. TAU is time after update, so you don't worry what that's about. But yeah, Thursday night or Friday morning for those people in the Gold Coast, unless Icon Course comes out. They expect intensity to remain steady at up to 60 knots, but they say there is strengthening possible before landfall. Their track confidence is now high, which is interesting, and they're the ones that have been sort of dragging their feet in it. The Bureau's sort of been locked in for that Westford track for a while now, but everything looks good. The key risks and uncertainties flagged by the JTWC, which is something we've been highlighting as well, is that moisten and strengthen before landfall, which is what we flagged. Obviously, the heavy rain, flooding, winds, and storm surge are likely, which we've been telling you about as well. And of course, that ICON model about the potential stall offshore. And we'll look at what other models are saying very soon, as they're uploading very in the background right now. So it's going to be interesting. I haven't looked at them at all. I always keep myself complete and virginal, so when we talk about it together, you can hear my absolute disgust or absolute glee, whatever the models say. And we react real and raw with you. Let's get on with this. No waffling on. Let's go. I'm a man on a mission tonight. Okay, so we've got, here's the Joe Typhoon Warning Center track. You can see where he is out here, wobbling around that little bit of that northwest kick, or west-northwest kick that they said, and then he's just going to basically beeline up Gold Coast or Brisbane, either one, and basically then plough inland according to JTWC. Sometime, as we said, Thursday night or Friday morning. They're still a bit up in the air about that. Okay, the Bureau's current alert, and I have to actually cut the heading out, sorry, Bureau, but I couldn't get all that stuff in, so something has to get cut. Okay, it's basically position is almost dead eye spot on with the JTWC. They do actually have winds pretty similar, although they have it a little bit lower in intensity. I think JTWC had 55 knots and the Bureau had 50 knots, but they both have it gusting to 130 k's an hour or 70 knots. They have a slower movement, actually no, a little bit faster movement. The JTWC had 11 kilometres an hour and they've got 14 kilometres an hour. Not a lot of difference there. Central pressure of 982, satellite structure sheared, structural look, but improving curvature with convection forming southwest out center, which is what we'll look at very soon. And the Dvorak intensity is 2.5, which is basically a scale that meteorologists use when they look at things like satellite picture, wind fields, rainfall, precipitable water, a whole range of sort of stimuli and data they actually pile into their little model, and it gives them a special little output, which is up to 5, which is obviously 5 is at the end of the world, get to a storm shelter. It's still battling that dry air, which is what the JWC said. They've also used that moistening and trending towards a warm core tropical structure, which is incredibly important because I think that is definitely what ICON has picked up in its rapid intensification and the stalling effect. And I think that is something we'll see the other models are sort of picking up on yet. Track is basically the same. They still say gradual intensification expected, and they say high in category 2, although low in category 3 is definitely still possible before landfall. We'll see about that because its own model says a lot more than that, so I really hope this is one where they're correct and not incorrect, because it could create a whole lot of heartache for people on the basis that they've been saying it's going to come ashore as this, and then it goes ashore like almost double the speed. That's a bit worrying. And the impact zones remain the same. It's got that huge area of 120 gales of 34 plus knots. Just FYI, for a cyclone to be classified as a cyclone, it has to have sustained winds around, I think it's 3/4 of the low level circulation center of 34 and above knots. So he has sustained winds of 34 knots around 425 kilometers of his southern area, which is incredible, massive. And that's basically which is where that rainfall is going to come from, is that those winds squeezing against the system, and that's what's going to create that huge concern about flooding, catastrophic flooding too. And the key risks and uncertainties, again, of course, is the rapid intensification near landfall. Heavy rain and flooding threat is growing, and of course that only gets worse if it gets stronger, because then you have thunderstorms in the eye wall, for example, and thunderstorms will bring local heavy to torrential falls, as well as side of the gradual accumulation falls you're going to get with a massive area like Alfred has in relation to that. And of course, the ICON model hints at a possible stall as well, which is going to need further monitoring. So, all in all, interesting times. Okay, here's the Bureau's current map, and you can see they've got basically the same, almost 100% locked in track like JWC now. I think they're pretty much both confident. There's still a bit of a grey area here. You can see this little this area of uncertainty, which is there, we could potentially go. So anywhere between the border and up to the sunny showing coast, which is why they've got that weather watch or warning zone extended that far. That's why that's just in case. But generally speaking, it's probably going to hit between, I'd say, Gold Coast and Brisbane, barreling. And a little bit further north of Brisbane is probably going to be worse for rainfall in terms of the Gold Coast and down to northeast New South Wales, because that's where the greatest activity will be. But again, if it stalls off the coast, like one of the models forecast, ICON's forecasting, then that could be just as bad, because it'll just pump over, heavy rain and potential storm, and also strong winds as well for a great period of time, as well as the storm surge, of course, because it's basically sitting there just pumping, massive winds towards the coast. All right, let's go So rainfall again is not changed. So 300 mils to 1,000 mils is still possible. And Icon this afternoon is the last one I looked at because it was the only one that's updated. Was 900 something mils. So it's not backing off from those massive falls, and that's in part due to a warm core low like this. Obviously has all its winds at the surface, even though it does show some subtropical characteristics. Still, the strongest winds are at the surface. And so what they do is they fly along, and then of course they're going to hit the coast and the friction of the coast and the Great Dividing Range, and they get deflected way up into the atmosphere. And of course when they go up, they have to lose all the water they're carrying, and that's going to be in the form of rain. And that's what's going to create these catastrophic or potential catastrophic flooding right from Brisbane right down through to the mid-north coast, anywhere east of the Great Dividing Range. So anywhere east of that, there's obviously a range of flood warnings and stuff out. And again, if your suburb floods, don't get your camera and try and drive through it. You're just going to put all your emergency service personnel at risk. Please avoid that. Again, this is what the rivers that are subject to flood warnings by the New South Wales Bureau. Of course, most of the river systems in the south east Queensland are subject to flood warnings by the Queensland Bureau. I won't run through them again, but they're all available. You can look at this or check the Bureau's website. Okay, storm surge stuff again, coastal gusts, that's going to go obviously to 130 k's plus, depending on what's going to happen. Again, the island and coastal community is the most at risk because the wind has no friction, so it basically hits the coast at full speed, whereas once it gets over the coast, it does lose quite a lot of speed due to buildings and geography and all that sort of stuff. Of course, this is all with a big asterisk next to it, just in case he does intensify to that category 3, and then of course they start to do weird little things and they create their own bit of environment, and I guess we'll see what happens then. Don't go out in your boats, tie your outdoor furniture bins and sort of garden gnomes down, and everything's not going to be bolted down. It's basically going to say goodbye and end up somewhere either inland Queensland or out in the Tasman. Okay. Let's go storm surge warning again. I think for me this plus flooding is the greatest risk from Alfred, and again I cannot stress that if you are anywhere near the coast that gets a puddle when there's like 5 millimeters of rain, then you need to be looking at where your local SES or QESES, I think they're called, emergency shelter is, and have a plan to get there before this stuff really kicks in. Now we're looking at conditions to deteriorate basically from I think tomorrow morning or lunchtime tomorrow especially. The thing is it's going to catch people unawares. You're going to get the fizz of people who are going to go on and say that with their great meteorological knowledge how they know better than anybody, because it's coming from the east. So all the activity is to the south and the southeast and a little bit to the southwest, but it's developing rapidly now, as we've heard, and it may develop that symmetrical shape as it gets closer to the coast, which means that activity will spread a lot further into the west, into the northwest, and also possibly to the north, of course into the Sunshine Coast, but we'll see. But realistically is there will be all these know-it-alls out there who, when it's sunny tomorrow morning, and it could possibly be sunny tomorrow morning in the Gold Coast and Brisbane, FYI, they go, oh, this is just ridiculous, this is HARP, and this is, chemtrails, and it's a boat out there in the middle of the Coral Sea pumping out 1 trillion gigalitres of water to make this happen. Oh my God, some of the stuff I've heard. Just remind these people that the system is to the east, and just like a cold front when it comes from the south, you don't see any activity till it actually gets to you. It's going to be the same with the cyclone, because of the way the structure is at the moment, unless that structure changes dramatically overnight and it does get a more symmetrical shape, which is that circular shape, which is a more classic cyclone look, and they could be caught unaware. So please, if you have neighbours who are a bit, conspiracy theory, or get on Facebook and they're like all those weird pages, or X, or wherever it might be, please just stress to them that it's coming, and it was likely to arrive in within 15 to 30 minutes potentially. Like, that is how much conditions can dramatically change once those bandings of Alpha get close enough to the coast and you start getting those impacts smashing on shore. It's going to be too late to put into place your emergency plans. It's going to be too late to bring in Fluffles the cat and your bin, because they'll be gone. And Fluffles will go to a new home somewhere, either up in the sky or somewhere in Tasmania or New Zealand. So just remind them that they don't know everything. They're not a weather god, and that even if the worst case scenario of the Bureau does not happen, it's still better to be safe than dead. or with fluffles flying somewhere across the Tasman into New Zealand on a free holiday at about 40,000 feet, following that lovely poled out photo channel. In fact, you may even end up in Antarctica for a free Antarctic flight. And of course, I'm being a little bit glib, but the reality is that this is a life-threatening situation. Once that inner banding and even the central banding of Alfred get close to the Gold Coast and Brisbane, it is going to change rapidly and dramatically, and you will not have an opportunity to flee or get out of there, because that will start, and it's most likely that cops will close roads down, especially the ones that are subject to flooding, to prevent people dying, and that includes you trying to escape your house at the last minute. So please review your emergency plans right now, have a route of evacuation right now, and get out of there tomorrow morning if your place is subject to any inundation, whether it be localized flooding, whether it may, canal flooding, or it be storm surge coming in from the coast. And the storm surge will be significant. You're talking about 7-meter waves. They've got to go somewhere. Now, it won't be 7 meters, of course, but it could be 1 or 2 meters. We don't know. This has been a long time since this sort of system has barreled into the Gold Coast and Brisbane, so it is a great unknown. So it's best off going with the worst case scenario than thinking you know better than everybody and going, I'll be right, and then ending up floating away on your Camry. That's it. That's enough preachy for me. Let's get on with the rest of it. Okay, pets and animals again. I'm going to go over this because our little furry friends, whether it be Fluffy or Wussy, whatever your little pet name is, they may be a mighty warrior of the streets, and they may be invincible, but they will hate cyclones because of the weird noises, the winds, and the very fact that pets and animals can actually be very sensitive to environmental changes, as you probably know, and atmospheric changes. And if your pets are sensing it now, it's a good indication that you're going to be in a risk area. So listen to them, take a warning, take notice of them, get them inside early, get them lots of water, a piddle pad or whatever you got, cat trays, whatever you might do. Make sure you're going to put it in the garage, which is okay. Make sure your garage is reasonably weather sealed. Don't forget the bottom of the door can have water come up underneath it if the inundation does happen. And even if you're not in a flood zone, the winds can be strong enough to be blowing water up under the door. So be aware of that. You may have to put towels down, put some plastic down. Obviously don't cut off their oxygen, so be very wary of that, of course. But give them somewhere that's going to be safe. You may have to bring them inside and put them in a spare room where it's nice and dark and quiet. Think about them as well as yourself. Because the last thing you want to do is be battling a dog or cat that is freaked out and attacking you because they have nowhere else to get rid of their nervous energy, and you've got a cyclone raging around you, and you've got scratched to crap, or the dog's bitten you, or they've destroyed the inside of your house because they're freaked out. Look after them as well as looking after yourself. You've taken responsibility for a pet, please look after it. During the storm, of course, keep them calm, but after the storm, just as critical, don't open the door and say, get out, because there could be power lines down, there could be a whole range of stuff. There could be actually native animals out there as well, like snakes and things that are dangerous to them, because we just don't know what's going to come in. You've got to have a sea snake wobbling through your backyard. Just don't know what the storm surge is going to do you. So check your location first, check for anything that's down, that it's safe, if it's safe, and also check your fences. If your fences aren't there, you might have to put them on a chain, for example. Once things are good, and you check that, of course, being very careful yourself not to electrocute yourself, because it's no good for poodles going for a little pee if you're dead on the ground electrocuted because of power lines. So, it's caution. And the last but not least part is check with your SES or your QSES evacuation centres and see if there's pet-friendly ones, please. Because that's the last thing you want to do is rock up and they say, no, we're not letting your pet in, and there is a great distress for both you and them. And it just causes everybody a lot of pain that doesn't need to happen. Alright, so latest trends. Okay, let's go in. We're going to look into the models live and we'll have a look together. So the latest trends at this stage is they've been consistently forecasting that landfall now between Brisbane and Gold Coast with steady intensification. Of course, there is no ruling out of the rapid intensification or intensification to Category 3. That is still mentioned in both technical discussions, and it still is a possibility, and we'll look at the models in any second now. Intensity and trends, they're going through that sort of high Cat 2 to low Cat 3, and don't forget that will cause significant damage if 100 knot winds, which is what Axis G, which is the Bureau's model, was forecasting for a couple of runs now, do manage to come about. That will cause some significant damage because it's going into a non-cyclone rated area. Anything north of the Tropic of Capricorn normally is under what they call a cyclone code, and a Category 3 doesn't cause much worry up there. It's a bit windy and stuff. Going further down the coast, while you do have buildings that are rated to a certain wind factor, they're not rated to 200 k an hour winds or 185 k hour winds. I can tell you now, gusts. So there will likely to be, especially older places, there will be likely to damage. So just to be aware of that. Environmental factors, are they helping or hurting? Warmer waters will definitely help it intensify. Shear relaxing is definitely going to help it intensify. And the dry air is still in the play, but the moistening core shows that dry air is actually now being washed out and probably being restricted from actually penetrating into the core, which means that the intensification is it's definitely much on the card. Of course, we're now going to look at what the models are saying in relation to intensification and what potential winds are. So without further ado, I think that's my last one there for that, bits and pieces. Let's get into the models and away we go. So the first one we'll look at, we'll zoom in out. I'm actually going to keep it on winds. I'm not going to actually zoom into rain because we just know it's going to be wet. So I might not go in that far because it's a bit hard to see. I think on the monitors it actually might be, no, I need to probably, yeah, that's pretty good for you guys. Okay, so really what the area we're looking at now is basically Sunshine Coast down to sort of mid-north coast, which is basically where the watch zone is. I'll just double check whether they've actually updated the hurricane tracker because it has been slowly updated lately, and it's just been very frustrating. And it's been updated 9 hours ago, so there you go. So it has still not updated. I'm expecting to update any second now, so we'll go back and check that, and fingers crossed it does. But we will look at ECW. So is EC updated, please? Weather gods tell us. Yes, we got a 0Z EC. So right, we've got that now. So let's make sure we're on wind gusts. Let's go to wind gusts. All right, here we go. So this is where it currently says EC days, so it's not far off where the Bureau has said, although I think this is actually a little bit further north because the Bureau did say it was actually pouring more east. Anyway, let's go. We'll skip through to tomorrow because we're not obviously worried about what's going to do overnight. And you can see this is the thing here. You can see that circular, symmetrical sort of shape taking place. You can see the tightening of that level convection center or circulation center. And that is, just ignore the pressures. The pressures aren't as, they'll become more important. And here we go. So at this stage here, it's got 63 knots, 65 knots, which is what the Bureau, the upper end of the Bureau, so that's getting close to that. We might just keep that down so I can just drag that. I'll just take that, ooh, no, don't do this to me. I'll take the little flag at it so we can see the colours, and I'll drag it up so we can see. Alright, so we can see here that EC definitely has it still well offshore by Thursday night, and that band of 60 plus knot winds is actually intensifying. The pressure's not dropping as much, so EC is still not keen on too much of an intensification. Let's go into Thursday night, still well offshore, and here comes the stronger winds. Now you'd be interested to say, why it's only 992 and why is that? I would ignore the pressure. I just don't think that's going to be an accurate reading. And here comes those strong winds. Now you can see that EC has actually taken a bit of a wobble south. We've got this bit of a sort of a teardrop sort of look to the basically the low level circulations there, which is interesting in itself. Whether that's because of impacts of the coastline starting to feel the friction, or that's because it's actually starting to take on that more symmetrical shape. Let's go here. Look at that, it's rapidly dropping now. Let's have a look at those winds. Look, we're already looking at 50, 60 knot gusts along the exposed coast already, so, and that's not even close to it. Okay, up to 75 knots. Well, that's category 3. So EC is now saying category 3. Let's see if it gets across the coast as that. It is definitely saying intensification, which is why that wobble and that air pressure is dropping, and you can see that wind's just banding around. It's starting to feel some impacts of that friction though from the wind. Let's go here. So good news is that winds have died off a bit, so still 65, up to 65 knots, but you can see that it's backed off a bit. It's still not sure yet. It's Friday morning, and so EC is actually going for it to wind down a bit, but it's still hanging off there, if you notice. So it's actually stalled, a bit like Icon said, but except EC has said it's not going. Now, here we go. So EC says stall, like Icon, but they both go in a different direction. EC says it's going to weaken a bit, although it's still category 2 at this stage. It's still offshore, and look at that roundness. It's actually going into a real tropical cyclone, and it's still not ashore. And we're into Saturday morning, and the Bureau is definitely like Thursday night, Friday morning, and EC does not agree with the Bureau at all. So already we have a significant divergence, which is disappointing that both the Bureau and GTWC have not mentioned that, but I'll put an asterisk next to it. It's most likely because they did both their outlooks before EC was out, and they don't get special access. They get the same as anybody else. They may get like a little bit earlier. That is a significant derivation from what they've put out in their tropical cyclone outlooks. You can see for yourself. Stalling offshore for a whole day. Now that's obviously going to create a lot of chaos because you basically got all of Friday now 50 to 60 knot winds buffering that whole coast between basically Lismore right up through to what's that little island? Is that I don't know where that island is there, but that's it's not I can't remember that island is, because that's whatever they call that now up near there, but that's, I don't know what that little island is, but anyway, near Redcliffe I think that is, isn't it? All that sort of stuff on the southern end of the Sunshine Coast. Basically all day Friday, just whack, whack, whack. And that is interesting because it actually agrees with Icon in the stall, hanging off the coast, and it just doesn't agree with the maintaining intensity. And that's obviously, but look at that round circular stuff, and you can see that change as we went back here. That the eye tightens up, which means it actually is intensifying, and it's transitioning from that subtropical features into a proper symmetrical tropical cyclone. And I just, that is not what either JTWC or Bureau have put out in their outlooks, and that's already in disagreement, and that's going to increase the pressures on emergency services massively, because they're going to have basically a whole 24 hours now of this cyclone off the coast, just whacking it, and may not be winds that are going to be the issue so much, although you can see here, right out through those exposed, those exposed areas, getting up to 50, 55, it's probably going to be 60 knots even more across the whole swathe of that sort of area around there. And you're going to have downslope winds coming off that escarpment through. So, these are all at 40% to a lot of these winds, for a whole day on Friday is just insane. And that is interesting. I'm going to be interesting. I'll check the Bureau's 8 o'clock outlook if we're still on, because it's going to be out soon. But if they don't mention the complete change in forecast by EC, this is why, you can criticise me for putting that stuff out at Icon. I'll take it on the chin. But this is why I do it. Because I don't make the decision about what information you should know. I give you the information and I'll tell you and I'll educate you how to read it, and then the decision is yours. I do not like government agencies saying we won't tell people what models are saying. I just don't like it. You're better off educating them and also making sure you give them a good framework so that people don't panic. But people are always going to panic no matter what you do. If you don't tell them, you do tell them, people are going to panic because that is human nature. We're emotional beings. That is how I respond. If you give information in a clear and rational way and you explain it and you educate people to make decisions based on that information, you can never go wrong. But hiding information like this is not on. So we'll see what they got to say, because if they don't mention this change in the potential forecasting, I'm going to be livid, to be honest, because that's just, it's treating people like they're idiots, and I don't do that. Okay, so we've seen EC, it's not going now ashore till Saturday morning, which is what backs up the Icon scenario, so let's, interesting eye rays. Okay, let's go and have a look at Icon now, because you've heard the much faded Icon. I reckon it's pretty almost at 6Z by now, because it's been that long since it's been out. Let's just check for you. Oh no, still 5Z, but 6Z's like due out very soon in an hour, so that's good. We've got 0Z, which is the most recent. So let's see here, and we'll put, so look at that white there. I mean, that's 86, 90 knots straight away there. That's pretty nasty stuff. Okay, you can watch the atmospheric pressure there. The white is basically like, category 3 winds, so keep an eye on the white. I don't want to have the flag in front of you because it's going to be distracting. So that's Thursday, so you can see again, basically the same impacts that EC had too. Increased winds from about lunchtime tomorrow for basically a whole swathe of the coast from basically, northern rivers right up through to the Sunshine Coast. And let's see what Icon does. You can see this beautiful symmetrical eye. You can see it obviously intensifies a lot more rapid and a lot more organised than EC does, and that's the difference. and going into it, you can see, look at that, just really starting to wind up into a beautiful white eye. And we'll go into what it's doing, and you can just see just hanging off the coast there. And here comes that second burst of winds, because look at that eye tightening. Like when you get an eye tightening like that, that's intensification, because there's going to be storms and everything in that sort of center. And look at that, it's 979, like wow. And this is what, 90 knots, 91 knots. It's not a good scenario. And you can see here, you're looking at the coast now of 50 to 60 knots, just in the cyclone, still, reasonably off the shore, and it sits there all day. Look at that. I mean, you see what I'm saying about stalling? Like EC had the same thing. Yep, they had differences in winds, and it's obviously down to how they both use whatever's happening underneath it, whether there's enough moisture or the timing of the ridge. But they're both saying, I mean, look at that, 100 knots. Right, that's actually now a symmetrical tropical cyclone. That is a full-fledged symmetrical tropical cyclone. That's probably definitely a mid-3, approaching a solid, strong category 3. It's as simple as that. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. There's 101 knots, and you can see here the coast areas now 80 knots gusts right up, and up to almost Brisbane's got up to 40, 50 knots. And you can see Icon's a little bit further south than EC2, which I think is probably one of the things that is actually influencing the development intensification a little bit more than EC. EC had it a bit more up here. But wobbling around, just sitting there, 979. Gold Coast now has got 70 to 80 knot winds. It's going to cause damage. It's as simple as that, gusts. And a whole swag of coast, and Brisbane's getting up to 50 to 60 knots now. There'll be damage there as well. And let's get on into Saturday, and you can see just sitting there. Thankfully, it may not come ashore with 100 knots, but it's only just offshore. And you can see then Saturday does exactly what EC did. Hit across, and away it goes. Now, it's a little bit further south than Brisbane, where EC was just pretty bit around Brisbane, but it's exactly the same outlook, exactly, except for winds. That's the only thing, the difference, and a little bit of difference in location. And obviously, both of them handle whatever's causing the intensification a little differently. So, models aren't chucking a spaz. This is now a pattern, and what we have to, I'm not going to wax lyrical about it. You can hear that my concern, my voice. All right, let's have a look at what Access is saying, and we'll look at GFS, the big laugh. All right, so here's Access. This is the Bureau's on model. So, already it disagrees with the Bureau's outlook. It's still well offshore. It's got 90 knots. So already it's, I don't understand. I really don't understand why. And they would have had this model available to them when they issued their last outlook. It's been out for 2 hours. Why mislead the public so? Why cover up information? You're better off telling them this is a potential, it's covered. This is the worst thing that creates panic, is more that something happens that people aren't aware of, and they think that, things are out of control. That's what creates panic. Not people putting information out there a little bit earlier, giving people time to digest the potential ramifications of it. Look at that. Icon, exactly the same as Icon. Like, there's two models identical in terms of symmetrical shape, and EC looked like that as well. It was still a bit more ragged. And you can see here, still 90 plus knots. And it's got that beautiful cyclone symmetrical shape and that curved banding. And it's still offshore, and it's Friday night, and it's not even close to going across when the Bureau's been telling us it's going to cross. And still 70s. Now, it's got a little bit of wigging, and so in many ways it does actually reflect what EC, but look, it's Friday now, into Friday lunchtime, and it's still off the coast, and it's 979, and it's now back to 80 knots, 85 knots, which is a Cat 3. The Gold Coast, or basically from mid-north coast, northern rivers right through, is now getting 60 to 70 knot gusts. Brisbane's now getting almost up 50 knots plus probably. When you add it, you can see the outer edge now of that core has definitely come across, and it's still well off the coast. It's just baloney that it's coming across. It's coming across Thursday night, early Friday morning. It just shows you it's not, and it's got the same scenario as EC and Icon now, stalling, hanging off. And then ploughing ashore sometime early Saturday morning, 24 hours later than the Bureau has been promising everybody. And, Access actually has this, which is, pretty significant worry. Up to 80 knots still south of the system, and also, 60 to 70 knots pushing into Brisbane south of the system. In fact, this scenario here, where it's a little bit further north, is probably worse for Brisbane right through to the northern rivers. And you can see why. The strongest part of the cyclone is going to be ramming into the coast. But would you read that in any of the tropical discussion that's been released that I just showed you before? No. You wouldn't even know about it unless I've actually brought your attention to it. I'm sorry if I'm animated, but I just really shits me to tears that government agencies treat us like idiots. It just really does, which is one of the reasons why I started. Look at this, Access continues to 60 knot gusts well inland and the coast, 50 to 60 knot gusts after it's been inland for at least 7 to 8 hours. Like, why treat people like fools? Just open up this things about the Bureau being incompetent again. Like, we don't know what modelling got available to us, and they're probably going off a different model. But so far we've got 3 pretty reliable, accurate global models, well-respected global models, all with a pretty similar scenario. Yes, they differ in their wings a little bit. You've got Icon pretty at the top end of the scale and EC at the bottom of the scale, and you've got Access pretty in the middle, which is unheard of for Access to be the moderate. But, if you then average those models, you'd say Access is probably the one that's going to happen. Icon's probably going a little bit too excited, EC's probably a little bit too blasé, a little bit too, relaxed. I mean, you can all see it for your own eyes. I'm not embellishing anything, I am just showing you what it says. Alright, last one's going to be GFS. Let's have a look at that for a laugh. Let's go. And so you can see GFS, again, pretty much consistently modelling what we've seen so far. It is a lower res, don't forget, so it's going to have smooth out a lot of stuff, so it's not going to show the level of detail regarding winds or tracking and stuff. Again, it's Friday morning and GFS has it off the coast. Not crossed, we're into lunchtime Friday, still not crossed, and it actually moves it north and then sustains the whole Gold Coast, northern rivers to 50 potential, and Brisbane itself. It's just this to say, and don't forget, this is a smooth model, this is like a low res model, so and it's still off the coast, and it hasn't crossed, and it's still pummeling into the coast, and this is actually going for a little wander up the north, and it still hasn't crossed the coast. And you can see it's obviously winding down, but not across the coast. And in terms of that scenario, I'd say GFS is probably way out of there. But you can see it's just crossing the coast now, late Saturday night. I mean, when you have 4 global models all agree on that, why are we putting out information to the public saying it's going to cross Thursday night or Friday morning? I don't understand. From in terms of logistical perspective for the SES and from the ambulance services, all that sort of stuff, they're preparing for this scenario, and next they're going to extend their resources for another 24 hours at least. It's just unfair to them. And I don't know, please, someone send some Mogadon around or some Xanax or something like that. Obviously, I clearly need to calm down. I'm just sorry, I get passionate for you guys, and I think about people who are living down there, who are just relying upon the Bureau, what they're being spoon-fed, and the Bureau's, my dad's like that, I've been messaging him and saying, because he's in the Gold Coast, and he's an old goat, love him to death, but he's an old goat, and he's like, no, the Bureau's not saying that. I'm saying, Dad, they're not telling you the whole picture. Not trust the Bureau implicitly, what's his name on the weather channel, like the weather thing on, I think he said Fox or Sky, I nearly fell from a chair when he said that, by the way. They said, X, Y, Z. I'm like, oh, yeah. Anyway, it's always better to be prepared than get caught out and then, have the most horrendous things happen to you, and you think, how did this happen to me? I could have been prepared. And that's, that's the general attitude and everything I do why I do this. It's why I do this. To give people the best information. And this is just disingenuous, and I'm hoping that they correct this by tonight's outlook. I really do. You've got one model saying at the Icon, I'll copy on the chin, it says Icon, but I've just showed you that it wasn't just Icon, it's now all 4 in some sort of degrees. GFS you can laugh at because it's so smooth, you've got no detail. But when you've got the Bureau's own model, their own model, and it's not good to have high-res stuff access secrets, it's not available. It goes out to, when their own model says, hey, Friday night, and we're still not across the coast, and guess what? It's Saturday morning, and we're still not across the coast, and you've been promising everybody it's going to be overnight Thursday. Like, what gives? I'm going to stop ranting. I'm going to focus. I'm sorry, my passion has evoked. I'm going to just clench my toes and count to 10 seconds and get back in chatting with you lovely people. And I'm sorry for that little dalliance, and please forgive me for my little purchase into like my frustrations. But I'm going to give you the updates, so keep an eye on our page. We'll give you what the models are saying. I'm not going to filter them for you, and I'm not going to hide stuff from you and say, oh, you don't need to know that because you might panic or get upset or anxious. My God, there's a tropical cyclone going for there. Of course they're going to be freaking anxious. I'm anxious from down here. I'm anxious from in people. I have family there. I'm anxious for them. I'm anxious for the fact that all those people there, all these people who trust the government to give them the right information, gullibly or not, and being fed crap. Okay, so let's have a look at whether they've updated the hurricane tracker now, and please cross our fingers so we can see what it means for us. No. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the models, we'll look at them ourselves and see where it goes after this, because I want to show you a particular Sydney aspect now, and it involves icon, and it is going to blow your socks off. So, gets across, and then he does, Sunday, he does a very quick dive south. You can see here, and down and down and down he goes, and then look where he gets, nobody knows. We have a Mr. Alfred goes from Monday lunchtime over the sort of northwest slopes and plains to potentially transitioning to a cold core system or even a subtropical system, and bombing us in the ECL off the coast of us on Monday afternoon and Monday evening. And if that would be the case, that is right in when my eclipse model said we will probably have an ECL. And I've been talking about this for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm a little nobody in the middle of nowhere. But I don't know how it happens because obviously the damage and that stuff, but I do hope it happens because it will be justification of all the hard work I put into bringing you guys information. And yeah, this is at the end of icon 2, don't forget, so it's going to be a little bit more susceptible to some hallucination as models are towards the outtime. But you can see there is an absolute low-level circulation centre right on between Newcastle and Sydney, and hammering us all Monday into Tuesday, and still there into Wednesday when it starts to slip and lose a bit of, it starts to definitely lose a bit of definition, and starts to become more of a trough, and of course that is towards the end of the model run too. So, but the circulation still remains there, as you can see, just off the coast of Illawarra, even by Wednesday, although you can see the winds have actually quite calmed down. Interesting, hey? Let's go in terms of icons, rainfall, and then we'll go check quickly the other ones, and I'll get off and shut the hell up, because you're pretty all just sort of like, let's go. So we'll go, oh, I hate when it does it. I hate this new slider, Windy. We're not going to worry about the up there because we know the Gold Coast is going to be swimming. Let's have a look at icon says basically from tonight and through to its outlook period. Don't forget, it's not very long, but you can see it's starting to start looking a bit like Christmas. So, 100, 150, 200 mils possible. And don't forget, the Sydney stuff is because it's towards the end of the run, so I don't think that's going to necessarily be a true reflection of what we see or what's possible to see. But here, look, 400 mils across the coast, and there's going to be a lot more. That's escarpment areas. Hunter definitely in the firing line as well. It doesn't take much for those lows to fire up, to be honest. All right, let's go. We'll go back to the wind gusts, and we'll have a look at what EC does with this system. We know it goes onshore, so we can kick off there. And where does he go after that? Let's have a look. So here he is here in northern New South Wales. You can see circulations remain pretty intact. I'll just drag that flag out of the way for you. And lo and behold, it is developing a very interesting flow itself. Now, it's not near the coast like Icon is, but you can see the inflow, and it's actually developing like a black nor'easter potentially. Interesting. And then it goes off the coast between here and Wollongong, and has a little circulation centre, so potential at least coast low, but it's actually a bit of a broader, so you can see this sort of circulation here. There's definitely a small circulation there. And away it goes, and East Coast low, developing with EC around the same period as Icon, and actually then coming north and retrograding and whacking us on Tuesday with what's that, 50k an hour, 49k an hour, maybe more, winds. And intensifying into Tuesday night with a whole slab of winds, and then doing a northeastward journey back off to the, oh my god, that would be hilarious. He goes all the way back up there. Please do, that would be, he's going back up the north coast, he's going for a holiday. Okay, and I think EC is starting to hallucinate now. And I think he's been actually bumped up by an approaching cold change in ridge coming through. Looking at that just quickly there, next weekend you can see this northeast or northerly surge down. You can see this back end here, and that's what bumped him up, and eventually he washes out. But alright, let's look at what rain accumulation Mr. EC is going to have. I don't think it's going to be as much as Icon, just quietly, although maybe I'm going to be made to look a fool. Yeah, I was a bit right. Yeah, it's still 140, 200 mils I saw there flash, 150, 170, 200 mils across the Blue Mountains. It's going to be possible. So Hunter, nearly 300 mils there. So, EC, Icon, very close to each other. You're starting to get a very consistent message, aren't you, from the models about where his next movement's going to be. All right, let's have a quick look at Axis. Oh, what an interesting trick this has been tonight. Okay, so we know Axis is going to go, and there comes the situation, very much the same as EC and Icon, and very much the same timing as well. And that's idiot, that's still an EC. Ignore me, I didn't click hard enough. Alright, here we go. So Monday, he's still in northern New South Wales, still not around us, so he's actually been buffered by that developing system to the south. He is not going anywhere fast at this stage. He looks like he may wash out over land. So EC Icon to us, access inland and washing out inland and dying, just like a general sort of easterly flow for us. And so I'm assuming when I look at the rainfall stuff, it's going to be pretty moderate in that basis, because there's no real force or anything that's sort of squeezing the rain to do that. Let's go back here and we'll have a quick look. Let's see how good my guess is in terms of accumulation. I reckon I'm going to be pretty much spot on. Let's go out there. Yeah, so what I said, not a real lot. Hunter still definitely at risk of some, especially in the upper Hunter in the northwest and northern areas of the upper Hunter, of course, those areas. Here, that's not going to worry us whatsoever, 30, 40 mils, so Axis not as good at all with us. And again, that's basically that southern system that's coming through, that we can see that next cold front. It's obviously the timing on whatever the ridge is, and that's the stuff associated with that, and the trough associated with that, it's different timing. Alright, let's have a quick look at get faraway scene. Ooh, now that's interesting. Let's go here. And looking like Mr. GFS is probably going to run with a little bit scenario. Let's go through to next week. Sorry for skipping here. Okay, so here he comes down, pretty much the similar timing, although he washes, it's not a circulation. Very much interesting here, this dip here is a trough, so it's sort of developing into a trough as opposed to a circulation center. That's that dip, and it could be look like what he's doing is actually skipping from here towards the coast, if that's what's going to happen. That's what that dip normally sort of does indicate. But no, it washes out. Bit of a kink in the isobars there, which is going to be good for some, it will enhance some rain, definitely on the coast. That's a bump there. Does follow Axis. So you basically got EC and Icon versus Axis and GFS at this stage in terms of these scenarios. That's like scenarios, but we'll go back quickly to the rainfall now, accumulation, and we'll see. The interesting is that GFS goes a bit more bullish when it comes to rainfall. 130 mils, 140 mils in the upper Hunter as well, and not overly exciting things. So they're looking up to 100 mils across parts of Sydney for sure, nearly 150 mils in the northern beaches, but GFS smooths it out, so take it or leave it. I think it's just an indication where we think we're going to see stuff. Alright. Righty-o. Okay, so let's get back on track. I'll go through questions now. I will put up the radar now so you can see what's going on in the background. Let's go back here. Let's go escapey, and we'll go to Brisbane and we'll have a look. You can see already gusty showers starting to push through, and like if I was to show you The velocity, you can see that is some very strong winds already, that dark blue, that is really showing that Alfred is starting to sort of wind up and is starting to get organised, and that banding is starting to happen, and that is definitely an indication that he is definitely in a better place in terms of his health and safety, and that is going to be an interesting scenario for those people there. I'll leave that on the background and I'll get to your questions. Let's go. Oh, quickly, just before, I know I have one slide left. Sorry. 96 hours, gusty winds, some heavy showers coming off the coast, and obviously depending on what those models do as well, as we just saw. But definitely the next few days is going to be gusty, sort of windy showers around. And join our socials. Just before I go to questions, we've got now on the TikToky with all those young people-y. Sydney Weather Nerds is our TikToky. We'll start posting from there tonight, and also on X now under Sydney WX Nerds, and that'll be posted a bit later. So you can join us. Please join us on the socials. Give us a like, follow, wave, whatever you do on the socials and on TikTokies. I'm not sure what they do there, but we need to reach the younger people, because this is exactly why tonight the misinformation they've been fed by government agencies. They need to know the truth, and the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me. Okay. Do different models, Claire. G'day, Claire. Thank you so much, and also congratulations on your top fan badge. Appreciate that. Do different models use different input methods? Generally, they use the same input method, which is data. So it's observations. It's obviously satellite observations. It's on the ground AWS observations. It's plane observations. It's a whole lot of stuff. But the way they process that data is differently. Yes, some have what they call numerical models. There's some AI models out there now, and they all use different algorithms and different ways they crunch that data. So yes, there is a different tweaks. Those 4 ones we just see are mainly numerical models. So the reason I do like Icon quite a lot is because it is a short-term model. It's only 5 days, and because it's so short, it actually processes a lot quicker, which means there's less chance for hallucination and all that sort of stuff. And it's a high-res model as well. So there is more chance of accuracy and less chance of, as models get through and they get longer, and a bit like the rest of us get longer in the tooth, we tend to wander, and we tend to, oh my god, what's that word? We embellish. That's the word I'm looking for. Embellish, things. Well, models are exactly the same, because you've got one little error or one little thing that's not quite right at the start of it. It exacerbates as it goes through, and that error becomes bigger. So as the model goes along, because it's not obviously intelligent to filter it out and get rid of it, it just basically calculates whatever the data is. And of course then you've got the butterfly effect, which is like a butterfly in South America flapping its wings can dramatically affect the world weather, which is true. And models do have algorithms that try and address that, but they're not perfect. Let's go. Vanessa, lovely to see you, or welcome. That's what I'm here for. They can obviously be picked up in Queensland. Yes, they can actually. Absolutely. There was dust and stuff from dust storms many years ago that actually went through to the South Pole, if the winds are strong enough. And you think about the Tongan volcano, it pumped things up so high into the upper atmosphere. It's still there today. Dust particles and volcanic ash, although concentrations are small now, but they do. Yes, they can go all over. They get to the right levels, and they get picked up by jet streams and other sort of winds activities. They get caught in these massive worldwide circulations that travel the globe. Definitely can travel all over the place. Change direction. Not what do you mean by that, Louise? But let me know on that. Half hour south is destructive winds. According to that last thing, was bound around sort of north of, I think, Ballina. Looking at the last one. Legacy media. I love that term. Are they putting out word across the world? I have no idea, Vanessa, if it's by design or not. I hope it's not, because that means it's treating people like idiots, and it means that they're actually preventing people from knowing full information. I don't know. I don't buy into conspiracy theories like that. I generally try and do believe in my heart of hearts that they try and do the right thing. But when you have 4 of the global models that show that, including their own freaking model, I just wonder why do it? Because the public educated these days, the internet is out there, people have access to this sort of stuff, and they can see with their own eyes that it's BS. And as soon as people start losing their confidence in government agencies like that, when they do warn about stuff that's important, people go, nah, you lied to us last time, you're probably lying to us now, and then shit goes down. Oh, what have I done there? Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. Wow, that was not good. Okay, so yeah, legacy media. Let's go back. Sorry about that. You would have had like a make it up. I don't think they make it up, Peter. Like I know that's a joke, but I genuinely believe that there's good people in there who do things. I just don't understand why they do this. And congratulations on your 2 years anniversary too, Peter. I'd love to have you on board. Thank you so much for your following. East Coast Low, yes, Louise, correct. Call it Cat 1 Alfred of Sydney, yeah, unfortunately, but it's going to have a cold, it has a cold signature, so it could actually be called an East Coast Low. It could be East Coast Low Alfred. I don't think they should actually name East Coast Low as well. In fact, you know what, we might do that as well. Going forward, we might actually give them a name. Give me some suggestions on the page about good names we can name low pressure systems. Let's go, CJ Romana. Lovely to have you on board. I'm not sure if I've seen you before, but lovely, welcome. We got too serious. Let's focus on the moistening core. Absolutely, Posros. I do love a moistening core. Even if ECL doesn't occur, we still think we're giving this information. Thank you so much. The sassy, yeah. I try not to be too sassy. I just get frustrated, I guess, because I generally have you people at heart, and I just hate people being just misled or lied to, or I don't know. I'm not saying they're lying because that's a pretty serious accusation, but I don't know why. These people said, no, we're not sensitive to humour at all. I think Pos is actually being a little bit facetious there, because you mentioned the moistening core. I think she was a bit tongue-in-cheek. The Sigma Storm Kit Caddy absolutely does look a bit like the Sigma Storm, absolutely. Sporting event at Warren, New South Wales on Saturday, Sunday. I think inland you still get some showers and storms, but obviously you won't get as focused as stuff like that in Warren. But it could be wet, so yes. Must have dry cores, yeah, moist, Pos. That's you tell us, CJ. You tell them Pos, like CJ, like Pos has a great sense of humour, and they're definitely being tongue in cheek, 100%. They weren't actually being serious. G'day Claire, you're welcome. Barry, we'll see if that rain comes yet, Barry. It's not quite locked in yet. What session that changed nowcasting? Good question, Pos. I think they should be putting nowcasting now, but it's clear they're not. Does Australia send specialised planes? Minister, nope, we do not. Unfortunately, we need hurricane hunters just like the US. We don't do it, and we should do it. And I think maybe, worst case scenario, if this does happen and it does come ashore as a Cat 3 and does some damage, it might be a push for funding to actually have some hurricane hunters or tropical cyclone hunters, which would have actually probably given a heads up about this war before it happened. Freddie Mac, I did sort of cover it a little bit, but put it in Pack Redland Bay. I think if you're on the north of the system, you're not going to get as much. Although I'll put a big asterisk, if it does transition back to a symmetrical, you will get probably a little bit more weather than you would do normally. But I think you're going to get some gusty showers, and you might get up to like 40 knots, but it's not going to be anywhere near the south of the system. The south on the system or south of the system is the place that's going to be the most severe weather. So if you're north of it, you're going to get some sort of wild and woolly weather, but it's not going to be anything like the south will be. There still will be though some storm surge though, so if you're near the coast, absolutely do pay attention to that. We have to push for some funding, Thomas. That's what we have to do, and that may happen after this. We'll see what goes on. Does the recent northwestern movement mean anything, Victoria? No, good question, but it actually it's been flagged by the models. It's a bit of a kick up by the ridges it's going through. Then as it goes over the sort of top of it, just think about if you're going over something, like put your hand at the window of a car, for example, and there it goes over top of it, and then at the other side it goes down. That's basically what's going to happen. It's going to be a bit of a kick north, and then it's going to then go sort of a downslope west-southwest movement towards the coast after that. When a cyclone moves, when it slows down, it means a possible change in forecast direction. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it just means it's been buffeted by different steering things. Yes. Sometimes it could be just interaction with the coast. It does actually tend to slow cyclones down too. On occasion, it just sort of makes them stand up a bit, and that can also help intensification as well. Namely ECLs, I agree 100%. ECL elbow, spin face, yeah, little Alfie, yeah, I love that. What's the X name? Blended is SYDWXNERDS, so Sid Weather Nerds, and WX is obviously short for weather. But Sid Weather Nerds, that's the X name, or Twitter, whatever it is, exception by omission. Could be Alicia, absolutely. CJ calling Glenn retards. What? Did I miss that? Where was that? Did I miss that? I'm sorry if I did miss that. That's not on. I don't put up with that. I'm so sorry. Alicia, if you tag me in that post, that would be great. I didn't see that at all. I didn't see that at all. Please let me know. I did miss that comment 100%. I don't, CJ, I appreciate it since we don't call people retards, okay? Mainly because I'm one. I'm neurodivergent, and I'm not, obviously, but I do have a mental disability. It doesn't personally offend me because I've been called worse since I was a kid, but yeah, let's just stick away from name calling. It's just not on in that respect. It's just don't need it. We can call other things names, but not each other, like especially when these sort of things are around. People their emotions are high and they're a bit more sensitive to stuff. They don't need to be dealing with bits and pieces like that. It's cool. You called him a twat, okay, well okay, fair enough. More name calling, peeps please. I'm gonna go cranky nerd for a little second. No more name calling at all. Just on them. We can use our words a lot more effectively to challenge things. And anybody out there, I've tried, if anybody's known about Hunter, whether I've tried them as well, they put a post out the other day, and I've messaged them a few times via social media, they haven't replied, I'm worried about them myself. And I don't think it was actually the owners of Hunter whether they put that post out the other day was casting a bit of shade, I think it was somebody else. And I do really hope that they're okay, Liz and the hubby are okay. I fear the worst something might happen to their little pooch, I'm not sure. I do wish them the best, and I will definitely try and still check out where they are, what's happening with them. Because I love my Hunter weather people. Why are we getting gusty showers now? Are they bands of outer bands? Yes, they are definitely outer bands of Alfred. Absolutely 100%, and I'll go and show you why I believe that's the case, and I'll use the satellite to do that. This is where Alfred gets really annoying because he's actually in between all the satellites, and so the rainbow one shows a good, you can see that little line here, that is the outer edge of basically Alfred's outer extends. And so ending in that now is, you can see how he's developing that really lovely cyclical curve. That is developing that sort of classic tropical cyclone signature. That is why we're getting these little outer bands here, definitely the outer bands of Alfred. You can see them here, these sort of upper bands sort of wrapping in now. And this is the moisture that is actually helping to drag in. So I think there's still a bit of dry air that's getting sucked in, and I'll show you go to the top, I'll go water vapor. But you can see now like it's starting to it's blocked, and it's actually being dragged around the outside of the system. And you can see now there's moisture starting to improve, and you've got this other surge of moisture coming up too, which will wash out this dry air, which won't really affect Alfred at all. And that is, that extra moisture coming from that tropical moisture as well that I was telling you about the other day. That's going to help him really intensify. So yes, definitely the outer bands of Alfred impacting us right now, and I'll quickly go to the radar and you can see that for yourselves. And there will be gusty showers, you can see here, and I'll just show you, this is actually what they call surface scan. So you can see like this light blue is not rain, it's just wind, so you can see basically what the wind is doing. You can see that sort of surging in, these lines, this classic banding from tropical cyclones, and we won't see them so much because it's such low level, and once you get out there, the radar beam will be well above it. So yep, definitely good call out there, Louise, thank you so much. I don't know what happened to Hunter Weather, Abby. I'll try and reach out to him again and see if I can find out for you guys, but happy to spread the word around to anybody in the Hunter Weather that I'm looking after Hunter Weather. Yeah, I'll look after you guys as well where I can. Definitely don't want to take them over. I'm not looking to replace them, so please get that message out clear and loud. I'm not interested in that. You guys have awesome owners, but if they're not available and something's happened and they're not contacting people, and with that potentially, ECL plus some up flooding, I will definitely do my best to make sure you guys are covered as well. All right. Yeah, let's just go back to focusing on what we're talking about. All right, so I don't think anybody's called it, CJ, I'm not calling anybody saying it's good to be called a twat or to say retard. I don't like either of those words. We need to all behave as adults in the room. I understand passions are high and stuff. Let's just chill out, take a deep breath. step away before you hit the keyboard. Everybody, let's please keep it light and friendly and sassy and witty and vibey, because that is what I'm about. Alright, I've got all your questions. I am going to go off and have some dinner because I haven't eaten yet, because I wanted to make sure you guys got the latest and greatest. And I'm getting a little bit peckish, I must say. And my stomach is rumbling. I'm sure you haven't heard my stomach rumble. And of course, they must be sitting out there almost banging on the door. They're hungry too. Oops. Sorry, we'll be there soon. Okay, let's go. And moist, yes. I love moist. I love moist. It's such a classic word. I love using it. People get already red in the face. It's like, it's moist. What are you worried about? There's moist bread. There's moist cake. It is all good. I'm going to clock off now. You're most welcome. Look in to tomorrow morning. I'll have fresh updates for you. Thank you so much for everybody who's joined tonight. I don't mind a bit of passion, but let's again just focus on the weather. Be nice to each other. And you all have a fantastic rest of your evening. I'm going to put some chill out music on for you all now. That always inspires me. I love my BBC music. I don't like the BBC much because, I don't know, I'm not there, but I do love their music because it just, I don't know, gets the creative juices going and makes you think about the weather. Have a fantastic evening. Keep an eye on the page, and I will have the tracking mats updates as soon as they are available. Wendy, I'll put them up so we can see what they're saying as well. Always look after yourselves, be kind to one another, and good evening.